Hi, everybody. Welcome to Hattrick's Unofficial Flyers podcast. I will be your host today. My name's Rick Mullen, and this is episode number 1 of hopefully many more episodes to come. A lot of things are happening out in the land of the Flyers, and good or bad, we're going to try to talk about a few of them today. Right now, the NHL trade deadline is tomorrow, Friday, March 6th at 3 p.m. There's a ton of rumors out there about a couple of our players from the Flyers that may or may not go. Real exciting. You wake up, it's kind of like Christmas. Let's see who we're getting. And, a lot of years, sadly, we're disappointed. We're all looking for that big splash, and it just never seems to come to fruition. The first real big splash in recent history that we have made was a certain player we have, Matvei Michkov. And Matvei fell to us at number 7. I know a lot of people say that, but I don't think it really fell to us. I think Matvei Michkov wanted to be a Flyer, and he made it happen that the Flyers were able to get him. So, I'm excited to have Matvei Michkov, and he's a great little player. He's got fantastic vision, creativeness, good hands, but he's had a hard year this year. Him and Tocchet have not been getting along, and right or wrong, I'm sure there's truth on both sides. It's something that it's sad to see. The Flyers are a really good organization. They have a great history, and it's hard to think that this is going on, and honestly, and that it's public and that it's consuming most of the media around this team. It has slowed down a little bit lately, and that's because of Danny Briere. Danny Briere went and had his press conference and kind of addressed what was going on, and since then, it's definitely gotten better. And there's truth on both sides. If Matvei Michkov came out and he came to camp and he was not in shape due to an injury or due to just being, heavy or not hitting the treadmill or the ice, that's not called for. I mean, that's something you can't do as a pro. And I know he's aware of it now. I'm sure he's aware of it now. And for Tocchet, it's understandable that he's upset. He one of the star young players coming into camp. He's not ready to play. So Tocchet has a right to feel the way he does. However, this is the Philadelphia Flyers, and it's a professional business. It's a professional league, and everybody has to learn to get along and do what's right for the team, the city, and the fans. And in reality, it took up until maybe last week for Tocchet to actually finally play Michkov in points of the game where he should be being played. And maybe it's because Michkov finally showed that he's in better shape and he's able to handle it. I don't know. But when you look at it, there's no reason why Michkov shouldn't be on power play number 1. There's no reason why Michkov shouldn't be getting time in overtime. He has 4 overtime winning goals. He's the most on our team. This is a no-brainer. These are things that he should be getting, based on his skill set and what the rest of this team doesn't have. With that said, again, I think Danny addressed it. I think we're in a good place. We're heading in the right direction. And I'm hoping it's past us and we don't hear about this anymore. And Michkov is a great player. I think this offseason coming up is huge for him. Just like Bobby Brink struggled to skate his first year or two here. In the offseason, he did something. He went to power skating classes. He worked really hard on his leg strength, his core strength, and you could tell the next season Bobby Brink was a skater. He picked up a lot of speed, a lot of strength. His forecheck was faster. He was able to play at the level of a game that was way higher than what he was playing before. And that's what Matvei Michkov needs to do. Matvei needs to get this offseason under his belt here, and he needs to work hard, get more leg strength, get faster, take some power skating classes. And next year he could come back and be one heck of a player. If he can just work on that speed and power will create so many chances for him. Because right now he's creating chances. He's sees the ice unbelievably. He has great vision. He just lacks some speed. And I think with that, he can definitely improve, and I think we'll see a much better Matvei Michkov next year. But right now, we have a lot of things happening in the NHL and on the Flyers. There's a lot of trade rumors out there that Bobby Brink is going to be moved. It's really sad. My son loves Bobby Brink. My son Sean loves him. His favorite Flyer player. I really like Bobby Brink a lot. When Bobby went out hurt, you could see that he was sorely missed on this team. That forecheck, that aggressiveness, that dog in him was missed. And I think if we do trade him, which I think we will, and I'll talk a little bit about that more. I'll miss him for sure, and I wish him luck, and I hope he does well wherever he goes. Bobby is sadly, at the end of his contract. He doesn't make much money, and the Flyers are stacked. The Flyers have so many wingers in the lineup that we have to make room. Porter Martone's coming in at the end of this year, probably to play a few games. Alex Bump down in the AHL, is killing it right now, and I'm sure they want to get a look at him. The Phantoms, they just made a trade. They traded a defenseman out for a Tkachuk, not one of those Tkachuks. Hopefully I'm pronouncing it right. But that was the forward position that we brought in down at the Phantom. So now we have a over amount of forwards in the Phantoms, which is kind of everything signaling that we think Bump is probably going to get bumped up to the NHL. He's going to get a look, which makes sense. You bring in a forward for the Phantoms, one has to come out somewhere. So that's what I think. If you look at it online, you're seeing some people now starting to talk about it, that more than likely Bump's going to get a look up in the NHL. And I hope he does. I think it's important for the Flyers to see Martone come in, to see Bump come in, to see what we have going into this offseason, so we know what moves need to be made, the Flyers need to make. And unfortunately, some good players, some loved players are probably going to have to get moved because of it. And Brink is probably one of those players that are going to get moved. Ristolainen looks phenomenal right now. This is really sad because we've had Risto for so long, and he barely played for us. Right now he went to the Olympics. He did great. He was on the world stage. Everyone saw how strong of a player he was and how good he was playing. And it's sad that the Flyers didn't have him for 3 years or 4 years, however long he's been here, playing at that level. Unfortunately, he's been hurt a lot for the Flyers. It's a hard pill to swallow because, in all honesty, if he can stay healthy, he's great. He's a great player to keep on your lineup. He's playing a number 2 role right now. He's hitting people. He's hitting them hard. He's skating. He's getting the puck up the ice. And when he has room, he's taking that room and he's driving the net and he's trying to create plays. And he's really, really looked good. It's going to be hard to get rid of him. However, with that said, with the Flyers' luck, if they do keep him, chances are he'll get hurt again and he won't be playing. And that's our fear. If we knew he was going to play, at 5.1 in this contract, 5.1 mil left in his contract, man, keep him. This guy is doing fantastic. But the fear here is he can't stay healthy. He's not going to play. And that's scary, when you possibly have a chance at moving him. So, we had a lot of people looking at him, supposedly. We had Dallas and the Sabres and the Mammoth and I think Edmonton and the Bruins and Detroit. And, as days go by here, we're one day out of the NHL trade deadline. A lot of these teams picked up their defensemen they were looking for. Dallas picked up Myers. St. Louis traded Parayko to the Sabres, hypothetically, because we're still waiting for, at least of this recording, for Parayko to actually accept that role. And I don't know if he did yet. But if he does accept that move, he's going to be a Sabre. And the Sabres are a phenomenal team right now. They look fantastic. They completely turned a corner and put it together this year. And no one saw that coming. And, Parayko is probably sitting there thinking, I have a really good chance on a really good team to go there. But I think he has some time left on his contract, and I don't know if he wants to go to Buffalo for a couple years. If he had 1 year left, I think he'd take that deal and he'd run and he'd, enjoy trying to get through the playoffs and win a Stanley Cup. But I think he's probably thinking longer term, like I may have 2 or 3 years here where I have to live in Buffalo, and sadly, a lot of people, a lot of stars don't want to be in Buffalo. A lot of the people and players are there, or I'm sorry, a lot of the players there are usually drafted there, and that's why they stay there. But it's a hard decision for him, I'm sure. But if that does fall through, then maybe we have a couple other teams left that will be looking for Aristo Lannon, and hopefully Danny Briere would be able to move him for a good return. There's a little rumor out there right now that Nick Delorier is up for a possible trade. Some teams are actually, I think, calling and looking to see if he's available. Not bad if we can get rid of him. The Flyers aren't going to do anything with him. He's not probably going to get like a 4th round pick, something like that, so it's not going to be a dramatic change for us, but it opens up a roster spot where we can bring somebody up and have them play, hopefully here and there. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see what's going to happen with the Flyers and this trade deadline. I am 55 years old this year. I remember back in the 70s watching the Flyers win the Stanley Cup. I think I was 4 or 5 years old when it happened. And it's crazy because it's one of the best memories of my life. I've always played hockey, been playing hockey my whole life, and it's a passion of mine. And to remember the Stanley Cup is a really nice thing because there's so many fans nowadays that just don't know any better. They see the Flyers for the last 10, 15 years, and they don't know what the Flyers organization was like back from the 70s forward. I remember being 4 or 5 years old. They won the cup. We made signs on our pillowcases. We ran down on Brass Avenue in Philadelphia, holding up signs saying, Flyers #1, honk your horn. And it was great. It was such a great memory. I wish I celebrated more Stanley Cups through the years, but unfortunately that was it. That was the only 1 or 2 that we saw. I was alive through my teens, through the 80s, where we had some really great teams like Rick Tocchet, Ron Hextall. All those players were fantastic. And what good hockey. I mean, Paul Holmgren tried everything he could do to create teams back in like the 90s. And it was good hockey. We had Jeremy Roenick, Tony Amani, Sammy Kapanen. We had so many players back then, like when we started getting close to the playoffs, that you just can't do nowadays with these trades. And due to salary caps, it's very difficult. So you have to really, really be patient and make smart choices right now. Danny Briere has a very hard job right now to figure out who stays and who goes from these kids. And a lot of these kids haven't played yet, so he's taking a gamble on them. If Danny Briere wants to go out and try to get a Rob Thomas, it's going to be hard. He's going to have to give up probably a Martone or a Mishkov. And do I want that to happen? Absolutely not. I think Martone is a big body. He's got a great trajectory. I'd hate to give him up. Mishkov as well. So Danny's got a really tough job to try to figure out how to get these 1Cs, 2Cs, and retain his talent that he has without, giving up the house and making his team better. So anxious to see what he does. I really am. And I think as you're a young person, a young fan, you look at this team and you think, oh my God, they're terrible. It's a Flyers hire, it's just Danny Briere and Jonesy. It's the same old. They can't put together a team. They can't do this. They can't do that. And you know what? I remember being a younger person and thinking the same thing, like, holy cow, like this guy's available. The Flyers won't get him. Or, why won't we trade this guy? Why won't we get that guy? And as you age and you get a little more wiser and you start seeing how money affects the contracts, how, the players affect the contracts, if they want to come here or not. And it's a whole other animal. And that's where we're at now. We have a really good group in Jonesy and Danny Briere trying to make this team better. They really are. And some players I'm sure they've talked to did not want to come here because we're not a winning organization yet. And I'm sure there are players that would come here, but it's going to cost a fortune to get them. And this is where it's hard in a salary capped environment. So I think Danny and Jonesy are really doing the best they can. This is the first time in a long time we've had a lot of prospects in our prospect pool. The future looks strong for us right now, and I really think this team is probably one or two picks away, or not picks, but additions away from being a really strong team. If Forster didn't get hurt this year and he played, and we add Porter Martone in, Mishkov hopefully gets some legs. Those three people, those three additions, not including like a bump or a bonk, I think are huge. I think this team is not as horrible as some Flyers fans make it out to be. So have some patience. Let's get through not just this draft deadline, because a lot of times bigger deals aren't made during the trade deadline. They're made in the off season. The trade deadline hopefully is a plus for the Flyers and us as fans. But as we go into the deadline, the off season, that's where more decisions and more movement will be made. So, in closing, this is the first episode. We'll have a mailbag probably open soon to try to just take some questions or ideas for topics of discussions from some of the fans. Hopefully we'll generate some fans here in the future. And thanks for listening. We appreciate you checking in with us. And hopefully this is, again, episode 1 of many more to come. Hopefully tomorrow we'll have a really good trade deadline. And if so, we'll do another episode. We'll get another one on the books just to talk and go over what has occurred. And hopefully it's a good trade deadline for the Philadelphia Flyers. But the future's bright. We have a really good young team. We need to make a few moves here. And I think Danny Briere and Jonesy, again, are doing what they can to make it better. Thanks for joining us, and we'll talk to you all soon. Take care.